What do you need improvement in?
Just want to go through and win.
What is the purpose of overthinking? Taking care of your loved one. That's how you can increase your sales.
Hello, everybody. This is Faris.
And this is Nicole Flournoy, and welcome to another episode of Conversations with the Homecare Guyz.
Man, Caleb.
We are excited about this special guest. I want you to introduce this special guest to our audience right now.
Man, Caleb, we have best-selling author, social impact coach, nonprofit consultant, keynote speaker to lots of individuals around the United States as well. We have none other than Nicole Henderson. And before I actually pass the mic, you know you got to be special when your first name starts with a letter. So we got Nicole Henderson. What's going on, Nicole? How you doing today, girl?
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Faris and Caleb. You know, you two are two of my favorite people in the world.
Oh my God.
And you know, it's just a privilege and an honor to be here and to be with the Homecare Guyz.
Yes.
And I was so elated when I found that you all had this podcast. And I'm telling you, more people, everybody need to hear it because you guys give such richness and nuggets and then you're young, inspiring young African-American men. I mean, how much better can you get to that? Okay. So, you know, our Black is beautiful, but you know, it's not about race, but we have to celebrate who we are.
Exactly.
So I'm just glad to be here.
Well, no, we just appreciate you for just squeezing us in on your schedule. We know that your schedule is always busy. There's like hours and very, very booked, and we definitely appreciate you just squeezing it in. But I just want to kind of go through and kind of talk, just before we actually give our audience an opportunity to go through and actually learn who you are. I just want to kind of go through how we met. I remember a few years, it's been, Nicole, how long has it been now? It's been like at least 8 years.
It's somewhere between 6 and 8, probably.
8 years. So I remember we met when I was out there marketing for Prime Care, and I think we met. I remember in Marietta. I just can't remember exactly where. And we just started talking, and we just connected. I'm like, oh my gosh! And it's funny how like life happens. Like I didn't know you, you didn't know me from Adam's Cat, but we met. I don't forget why we met.
We were sitting on some kind of panel that we got invited to.
Yes. And then
it
we
was
met
a panel.
And we started talking, and after that we grabbed coffee, and then we started collaborating on a few deals and helping us out with so many corporations and nonprofits. It's like, man, and that's 6 years. Then I invited Caleb in, and you and Caleb, y'all just been cool. I think y'all been seeing each other at the TDJ's conference and just all these different things that you all are doing. And it's just amazing just to have you a part of our family. And so with that being said, tell our audience just a little bit about yourself and how you got started in actually assisting individuals with building their nonprofit organizations.
You know, I so appreciate that question because a lot of times we just work. We love what we do. We serve. We don't really think about where our start and our beginning came from. But more people have been telling me I need to share that story because there's somebody else out there who are wondering like what is their life plan? What are their life purposes? What are their goals? And when I was young, I was in a pageant called Mr. and Miss Black Teenage World Pageant. And I was Miss Black Teenage Georgia. And so I participated in this pageant. I went to North Carolina for 9 days, and it was a scholarship pageant. And it was so amazing. It literally changed my life. But the young men who was hosting the pageant in Georgia were 3 young men who came home from college. One went to Morehouse, and they started a nonprofit organization called Youth Initiative Project. And so the founder of their board was Mr. Ron Charity. He was the chairman of their board. Mr. Ron Charity was the founder of the pageant. He was a professional tennis player. He was a politician. He was a legal correspondent. I mean, you name it. Mr. Ron Charity was the bomb. He even taught Arthur Ashe how to play tennis.
Wow.
And so this man became my mentor. And so when I was at the pageant and when we came back to Georgia, they put me on their board. And so I was like 16 years old on my first nonprofit board.
What?
And And so when I graduated from high school, I stayed with the organization. So when I went to college, I came home and I ran their summer programs, their summer youth programs. So here I am, what, 19, 20 years old, the director
Come on.
of summer youth programs. And so it was just so amazing. You know, I got a chance to go home recently and really just give them their flowers and tell them what an impact they had on my life. You know, because a lot of times we don't get to tell people that.
Right.
And just love on them, hug on them, just tell them how much. There's still one more I haven't had a chance to see, but I have seen two of the other men. And it's just a blessing. And then to see the fruit of now how all these years later, I'm helping, you know, hundreds and hundreds, I don't know, maybe thousands by now of nonprofits around the country and around the world. So it's just been a blessing.
Oh my
It's amazing. It's amazing that you talk about that nonprofit with those gentlemen and how they have impacted your life. And just think about all those other girls that was in the pageant as well, and what impact they have had on their lives. And so nonprofits are here. And I think a lot of people get confused about nonprofits versus for-profit corporations. So, you know, we're going to just go to the very bare minimum for our audience. And can you kind of tell the difference between what is a nonprofit and what is a for-profit corporation?
Yes. I want to add one more thing to this, Caleb. One of the churches that I was a member of after I moved back home as an adult, they needed a 501c3. So I wrote my first 501c3 for that church.
Wow.
You probably were 18, 16.
No. I was like 25 by now. Yeah, by then. And so no, I was older than that, 29.
Okay.
Yeah, 27, 29, somewhere up in there. So I wrote the first 501c3 for them. And let me tell you, there is a difference between for-profit and not for profit. But the main thing that makes them the same is they both are a corporation.
Right.
So a lot of times people think, well, if I have a nonprofit, I'm not able to make money, or I can't pay my employees, or I can't charge, you know, or there's a cap in my funding. Or if I have 100,000 budget, I got to spend all the money in 1 year. So they confuse it with government and zero-based budgeting and those types of things. And all those are not true. Like I literally have an ebook. If you go to my website, cnhenderson.com, you'll literally see this ebook that you could get called Dispelling the Myths of Nonprofits, because there are so many myths that people have. And so a for-profit is an entity where you have shareholders, and in those shareholders, they share in the profits of the corporation.
Okay.
In a nonprofit, there are stakeholders, not shareholders.
Got it.
And so those stakeholders will become your board of directors, and they have a common vision and mission to operate within the community of that mission and purpose that they was arrived from. And so all proceeds go back into the organization. It's not shared among the stakeholders. So that's one of the major differences. But we know that there are nonprofits out here with budgets in the hundreds and millions and billions of dollars.
Yes.
So that doesn't mean that you can't pay your CEO, your CFO, your VP of operations, your directors, your supervisors, your program managers, your staffing, you know, your teachers. You know, hospitals are nonprofits.
Yes.
Colleges are nonprofits. The NFL, part of it is a nonprofit.
Hold on. You said part of the NFL is a nonprofit?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Yes. And I think one thing that, just like I said, a lot of times when it comes to thinking about nonprofit, people think that, oh my gosh, like that was exactly what I thought. I'm like, oh my gosh, like nonprofit, you can't grow a sustainable foundation or business or organization, because it's always going to be like, it's crunching the numbers. Like I thought nonprofits are what rich people do when they got old and they just want to go and give money back. That's what I really thought it was. I'm like, that's what a nonprofit is. That's Oprah's thing right there. That's Tyler Perry's thing. Or I thought it was those individuals that wanted to do something, because what I saw nonprofits they were doing was they were starting different programs for children. The funding wasn't there. Nonprofit probably lasted maybe a year or so because the funding wasn't there, and I saw nonprofits as a revolving door. And I guess one of my questions for you is why are some nonprofits, why are they revolving doors? Like, why do we see them today, and why do people get fired about starting a nonprofit, then a year later it's gone? Like, what's going on with that?
It goes back to not understanding the power of what you have. Mm-hmm. That's first. Mm-hmm. Because if you understood the power of what you have, you wouldn't misuse it. You wouldn't put it as an afterthought. You would really hone in and say, you know what, not only one, can we do good? Because it is about doing good, social responsibility. And two, it's goodwill in being able to give back to others and help the needy and help the poor and help those less fortunate. And so it's understanding. And then sometimes people get so caught up in the weeds. They're so busy operating and doing the mission that they forgot the business.
Wow.
They forgot that it's a corporation. And so they're not filing their 990s. Mm-hmm. They lost their status. If somebody filed just as simple as a postcard, electronic postcard that you could file with the IRS if you have under $50,000 in donations, and it is a simple postcard, and that will keep you compliant. But I cannot begin to tell you the hundreds and tens of thousands of people who have not done that, and they've lost their status. Oh. They just don't know. We really work with our firm to empower our nonprofits, to help them understand. Even you and I had a discussion about this recently of how we can add more value, how we can help them understand more of what they have without running ourselves, kind of down too, because you got to have that balance.
Yes.
Because I can't be the ED of every nonprofit that we help.
Correct. Exactly.
The ED is executive director. I want to make sure I spell that out for those that are listening. Like, what's an ED? I can't be the executive director. I don't even sit on my clients' boards. Now, there are times I may become an advisory, like an advisory board, to an advisor to the board, but not actually sit on their board, because that is a full responsibility. And also, Faris, I tell nonprofits, the nonprofit board you have is the one you built. You have that person, that founder has to accept responsibility for the type of board they built. If you just put family members on your board, they're not in love with your mission.
Exactly.
They can only take your mission and purpose so far, because they're really pushing you, and you trying to get them, you're trying to push them.
Right.
But if they already had the drive, let's say that your drive was to work with veterans, and that's your mission, you would go out and find people who have passion, knowledge, understanding for working with veterans. Right. And those are the types of people you need to put on your board.
Yeah. So I definitely hear what you're saying, because I see that nonprofit organizations are mission minded. And so you want to make sure that on your board is not just family members, not just people that can support you financially, but someone that has a passion about what you're doing. And I think that that's something that we see oftentimes. Some people just put down anybody on their board, and then ultimately the business doesn't grow because they don't have the right people.
Yeah. Another thing, Caleb, that I really stress to my clients is the 3 T's. I call it the 3 T's. You need 3 T's when it comes to a board member. You need time, talent, and treasure. So you want people who can give their time. You want people who have a talent that your nonprofit needs, and you want those who have resources, some type of treasure. Either they have resources themselves, or they have access to resources, like a banker, or someone that's in investments. Talent could be someone that's an accountant, a lawyer, a social media person, somebody who is a case manager, a retired school teacher. I mean, the list can go on and on and on, all depending on what type of nonprofit they have and what is their mission. And so people don't also need to understand that it is a conflict of interest if you are a public foundation and all your members is your family. because where is the quorum? You have to have 2/3 of your board members to have a vote. And if there's no quorum, then so if something came up personally about a salary or which vendor to use, and that person on the board may own that business, they have to bring in other bids, and then those two people have to sit out the vote so that they can keep everything, legal. Also, I can't even begin to tell you how many, not having minutes. Yeah. Another thing that nonprofit boards are really good at is they meet, but there's no follow-up and follow-through.
See, and Nicole, these are things that people that are listening right now, people that either have the nonprofit, people that are interested in starting a nonprofit, they have to know this. It's not a side hustle. It's not okay, let me get a nonprofit and start getting grants. Because especially, and you probably have some stories about that, especially once you start receiving grant money, especially federally grant money, there's some accountability has to come in, and it's opening yourself up for scrutiny, especially if you're not running it right. So let's go into that direction right now, because I think a lot of people, they go into nonprofits to actually find grant monies to go with the good heart of service, but when it comes to the managing part, they just know that my pastor said get a 501(c)(3). The lady down the street said we heard 501(c)(3) probably since we were young, and so let's talk about that. Let's talk about that.
A lot of people, Faris, thinks that 501(c)(3) is synonymous with grants. Like that's the only funding source. One of my colleagues wrote a book called 21 Ways to Fund Your Nonprofit. Her name, I'm gonna give a shout out to her. Her name is Cheryl Smith. She, you can find her book on Amazon. She is amazing. And I'm actually currently writing a book about nonprofits, about the FAQs of things that you just don't know that could hurt you.
Yes.
And so, and can help you grow. So, because a lot of times these books give you the core, but they don't give you what's in between.
Correct.
Those things that can take you to a next level, those things that can keep you from those questions that you ponder and you just don't know. And maybe you don't have $200 or $500 to pay someone, to answer that question for you. And so I feel like so many times people don't realize that about 72%, if not more, of funding comes from individuals just like you and I.
Yes.
And because they don't tap into that, all they're looking for is the grant. I teach on at least 13 different sources of, being able to find funding. And most of those are unrestricted. And so grants can be restricted. So, and not only that, you have to be realistic. If you don't have 3 years of history, 3 years of budget, 3 years of activity, you're not going to get a major grant. Now you might can go to EMC or Target or Publix or somewhere like that and get those smaller grants, which are great because now you're creating a history. And then people got to understand they need a grant schedule. They need to know a grant cycle, like when do grants come out? Who's giving to your mission? Because all foundations and corporations do not give to everything. Do they give to faith-based organizations? Do they give to churches? Because I tell churches a lot of times, you should maintain separation between church and state.
Right.
You're already tax exempt by nature.
Correct.
You don't have to have a 501(c)(3) in order to for your parishioners to pay you tithes and for them to write that off. That's an automatic. Now, what happens is if that church wants to go into bigger development, if they want a determination letter, then yes, then they need to develop what's called a developmental arm and create that so they can function through that arm.
So what I heard you say, Nicole, is pretty much, so nonprofits that are starting off and they're trying to eventually get grant money, it's possible for them to get it, but 72% of it comes from just ordinary people. So a lot
and
of
they won't ask.
And they don't ask. So pretty much people that support the cause, know the person, maybe through fundraisers that they're doing for themselves to raise the money for the capital. And then the importance of really going in and having some track records and having some successes in your areas for maybe a year or two. And then the third year, now people are going to recognize your work. And then you go in and start applying for those major grants so you can get.
Yes.
Okay.
I love how you were able to articulate that, Caleb, because sometimes people make it so hard. I was just telling Faris this the other day that I'm getting ready to do a workshop in how to ask for money, because so many people don't know how to ask. They feel like they're asking for themselves. They feel like they're begging. They get all personal. People got so many isms tied to money, even when it comes to their own business or it comes to their family members or, or whatever. They might have been taught certain money mindsets that needs to be reframed, needs to be redeveloped. And, some people didn't talk about money at the dinner table,
right?
Or all they saw was lack, or all they saw that they didn't have enough. People got to understand that sometimes you cannot even afford your own brand. Y'all gonna catch that in a minute.
Ooh, elaborate there. That just sounds you can't afford elaborate that, Nicole.
What that means is your brand may be a brand that's for the elite. Your brand may be a brand for those who can afford it, but it's that you couldn't even afford it, but you created it for someone else.
Wow.
That's enough said.
Oh my God. Oh, start liking this, like this page, share this page, because that was just a nugget. That was just a nugget right there. A lot of people are building brands right now that they're supposed to be the founders, but right now they can't afford it because they don't see where they are, where they're going. And in that same breath is a lot of people have a passion to serve, where right now they see like, oh my gosh, I cannot serve, but it's to continue building, like to continue with it. Wow.
And then their mindset limits them when they ask for funds, because in their mind, I can't give $1,000. So therefore, I'm afraid to ask someone for $1,000. Do y'all follow me?
You better preach.
So it's okay if you can't give the 1,000, but there are many, many out there biblically. And guess what else a nonprofit gives you? A license to ask for money.
Come on.
You are legally able and required to ask.
Wow.
You have a legal right.
So Nicole, it making sense now to me, based off the services that you do and the results that you're impacting. People will give more because of your service and what you're doing.
Yes.
So it's about really doing the action, putting the work into motion. And then once you start building the work, it's going to snowball. And then don't be afraid to ask. That's what I got from you is sometimes we're asking even too small. $1,000 may be too small when we ask. You don't go to JW Marriott asking for $1,000. You go, I need 100,000. I need $1 million. And so I think that we're in a mindset, especially in our African American communities, we're so used to just asking for $200, $50, $100. No, we need to be going to these corporations that has disposable income that can write off these expenses and not just ask for 1,000, but ask for, hey, we're doing the work, we're passionate about it, and we need $10,000.
And let me jump in here, because Nicole, I want you to kind of chime in on this, because I think a lot of times we run a nonprofit and a for-profit organization. And so a lot of times people come to our for-profit organization, our Prime Care, and they're asking for donations, but sometimes we have hesitations because when we ask for the paperwork, are you a nonprofit? Because for-profit organizations, we don't mind giving, and that's our, Caleb, and that's our goal, is to give back to our community, but it's the responsibility for the person who's asking to position themselves, because for one thing, we just can't go through in the bank and say, well, I'm giving Sally $100 or $300 or $1,000, because then our account is going to be like, hold up, okay, where's the W-9? What's going on? Like, where did this go towards? So express why is it so important, which you've already did. Why is it so important for those individuals that are already in the community, already servicing the kids, they're starting up teams for the kids and cheerleading camps for the kids and all? Why is it so important for them to position themselves as a nonprofit, since they're already giving back, so that they can tap into the resources?
Yeah, it's so important that you align yourself and that you get your paperwork together and you get approved as a 501c3 organization. There are probably 21, if not more, different types of 501s. It's not just the C3. There's a C6, 8, 12. I mean, you name it, it goes up like 20 something and above. And so It's just that you have to identify what type of organization you are. Once you get your proper paperwork, and then being able to pursue those types of companies. But it all starts with your budget. I cannot begin to tell you how many nonprofits will not create a budget. I recently had a training with a group of nonprofits. They do a lot of work in Africa. They do work here as well. And we had a meeting, and they've never raised more than $7,000. So they've never raised more than $7,000. Now, mind you, these people, there's another class I teach on how to leverage your resources. I tell people, you don't have a money problem, you got a resource problem. You don't have to leverage your resources. So they're pastors, they have access to other ministers, they have access to influencers, all these people, but not tapping into them. Not tapping into them at all. Now, when I say tapping into, you're not taking advantage. You are asking for those who cannot ask for themselves. Yes. You're asking for the little girl who's hungry. You're asking for the little boy who was human trafficked. You're asking for the veteran who's sleeping under the bridge. Yes. You're not asking for yourself. So when you take yourself out of the equation and you really put forward the mission and purpose that you're going for, then you'll be like, okay, I can handle this. I'll be able to, let me create my budget. So I was able to show them just with their board alone, they could have started their budget with $23,000, just with their board alone. They were like, oh my God. Yeah, because your board should be giving to your nonprofit. So what we do, we have this thing, I say, give this, raise that. So if you want to give 500, then raise 2,500. So now each one of your 8 board members, that's 3,000 a piece. You got $24,000 now in your budget that you can do some things with before you ever went out and asked for $1.
Wow. Stop right there. I want to cut you off right there, and just I want to ask you. So when that was another gem, girl. You listen, Nicole. You give me all these gems. So when you say, okay, your board give this, raise this. So you're assigning each of those members to say, well, I want you to be accountable for raising these funds.
Right? They're giving pledges.
I got your pledges. So how are they doing that? Are they doing that through asking? Are they doing it through like selling chicken plates? Like what are they doing?
So the give would be what they just pay out of their pocket. So let's say they wanted to, we had some people who said, you know what, I'm gonna give the whole 2,500 or give the whole 3,000. Now that give does not have to be over at one time. It could be every month. It could be twice a year. It could be 4 times every quarter. And then they space it out over the year. But when that year is done, that board member would have given $3,000.
Wow.
And so that's one of the things they're so, oh, my board don't have resources. Oh, I'm sorry. Anybody can raise $500.
Exactly.
Anybody can raise $500. Yep. I even have a little small fundraiser that I give people called Can You Spare 10 or More? And it has 25 names on the list. And you just go ask, it's like, what's $10 between friends? Sure, I'll give you your first 10. And people just sign their little name on the paper and they give you the $10 or more because it's 10 or more. I've seen people raise $5,000 off that sheet.
Just by going around asking for $10.
Yep.
Ooh,
wow.
Stop playing.
Look,
I am in Indiana right now, so I'm finna raise me some money for this.
I'm gonna send you the sheet, Caleb.
And Nicole, what you said is, I like what you said. You preface it with, we're not doing it for ourselves. We're doing it for that veteran up under the bridge. We're doing it for that kid that's been trafficking. We're doing it for that senior who does not have access to senior care. It's like if we keep the mission in front of us and take our big eye from in front of us and in every apprehension that we have, like, I don't want to ask this person. No, that means if you don't ask, you don't care about that kid. You're telling that kid to stay out there, to continue to go through and be in that line. That is so important. I think as we connect with those mission-oriented people, this is why you have to go through and connect with Nicole, because she will help center you back to why you're doing what you're doing and keep you focused on it, because that's the coaching aspect of it, is keeping you focused on the main thing. Because as we go through and work day to day, all the stuff we're doing, sometimes we kind of veer off track. But when you have somebody who's going to hold you accountable to the mission that you promise those kids you're going to send off to college. You promise that person that they're not going to sleep on the bridge. You promise that person they're going to eat a hot meal every day. And so so as we go through and continue to maintain those promises, this is what's going to go through and actually allow the organization to go through and thrive and flourish as well. And
go ahead, Faris. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go finish your statement.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, but I'm just now I'm realizing, Nicole, like when you say nonprofit, like I realize, Faris, why we started a nonprofit now. Because like at first it was just kind of confusing. And I know that the operations, that's something that you specialize in consulting and making sure that we're all staying compliant. And I think that's very important. So at the end of this podcast, we're going to have you to give your information because you have a whole lot of non-compliant nonprofits, Nicole. You got
Unfortunately, we do. Yes. Right.
And so I understand it now because it's deeper beyond us. It's like, what is this purpose? And so you're fighting for these unprivileged kids. You're fighting for these seniors that need the assistance. And so now I realize that. Nicole, I want to ask you this. How important when it comes down to leading a nonprofit, like, do you feel what percentage is like, okay, what percentage is those success ratings? Like, do you need someone, a full-time ED to really kind of run it in order to make it like really successful? Or can you be part-time in working your business and doing a nonprofit? Like, how does that work? Can you have a full-time ED, or is it pretty much you have to be all in or part-time?
That's a great question. And I'm so glad we're leading to this. One of the things that nonprofits, it's a myth, but it's also a fact that you can build this slowly. It doesn't have to be a race. You're not like a corporation for profit where you got stakeholders you got to meet, you got bottom line, we're in the black or we're in the red, so you can build it pacing yourself. And actually, to me, that's one of the best ways to build it is to pace yourself. Most founders end up being the president and the ED at the same time because they don't have somebody that they can have as an ED. Some may actually ask someone to volunteer. And then let me say this, though. This is one of the problems that I think that nonprofits also hurt themselves is they overwork their board. They think that their officer secretary is the secretary of their nonprofit, and it's not.
Come on. So you were for this and that.
You just dropped another gem.
Yeah, because they overwork their boards. When the board is the governing body of the nonprofit, they're making decisions. They're they're checking the accountability of the funding. They're following operations. They're creating programs and policies. They have a strategic governing. There's three duties: duty of care, duty of loyalty, and Lord, get the other one. Go to my website, you'll see it. But anyway,
I love it. Look, plug, go to it.
Yeah, but the thing of it is, those are requirements of nonprofits. It's not for that secretary who's supposed to be keeping your minutes. You think she's the secretary of your nonprofit. And so you working her to death, delegating them with activities. And then you wonder why people are running from you.
You like, I don't want that job no more.
Yeah. So now what you're going to have to do is create you some volunteer staff people. Get some job descriptions. Write out the job descriptions. Treat it just like a job. Go to internships.com, go to colleges, go to, put out to the general public and say, who would like to give us 10 hours a month, 20 hours a month? Who can help support this? And there's volunteer match dollars that some companies out there, if their employees work for your nonprofit, they pay their employees. I mean, they pay the nonprofit. So let's say you're with Nestle or Microsoft. I think Microsoft used to pay like $15 or $20 an hour. So if you work for Microsoft, Faris, and you donated your time to a nonprofit 10 hours, they would have paid them $250 for your time that you donated.
Wow.
And those are called volunteer donations, volunteer match of, and then they have match of like whatever you physically donate, like financially, some companies will match that as well. So there's just a lot of resources out there that people just don't tap into. And again, it comes to personal development, I can't tell you how many people say, oh, they served on a board before, but do they know how to serve on your
Come
board?
on.
Do they know how to help your board function well? Do they understand their legal responsibilities? Because in our board boot camp, we cover all that. I give a test that I know that everybody gonna fail. Not one person have not failed that test. And we do it on purpose, not for them to fail, but for them to let them know what they don't know. And so by the time they leave, they take the test again and they like, oh yeah, we know this now. And it's only 9 questions.
and what you're doing, you're equipping and empowering, because just like I said, because I can see your passion behind actually ensuring that nonprofit, we just don't start one and it's going here today, going tomorrow. If you're called towards a mission, if this is what you're passionate about, that's a lifelong commitment. And I see that's your commitment as well to go through. And just like you were impacted when you were 16 years old sitting on that board, how you're impacting the next generation so their mission can continue as well. And it's so important. It's so important for people just to go through and reach out to you to kind of really understand why a nonprofit is important, first of all, how to run it successfully, and how to go through and maintain compliance, thirdly, as well. It's so important. So, Kayla, Nicole, we're going to keep you around for an after show, because I want to go through an after show. I want to go to our after show and I want you to go through and tell us why every successful business should have a nonprofit arm to it. Because that's something, but we're going to say that for the after show, because that's
social responsibility.
It's a social responsibility, and also what are some of the tax benefits therefore as well. So we're going to talk about that as well. But before we go, Kate, do you have anything else? Because I'm going to go through and have Nicole close.
No, Nicole.
I want to say one thing about that tax benefit. Let me tell you power what people have and they don't realize it.
No, hold up. Say that for the after show, girl. We this for the.
You don't want to get this little nugget.
Give a little bit. Don't you get a whole thing?
Don't get a whole thing, Nicole.
Because this is for individuals. This is not for businesses.
Okay.
So if you have a nonprofit, people can give 60% of their adjusted gross income to you. 60%. I've been on boards where board members have literally wrote checks for $25,000, $50,000, $100,000 because that money has to go somewhere.
Exactly.
Either they're gonna pay it in taxes, or they're gonna donate it. At the end of the year, there's companies scrounging, looking for somebody to give funds to, and this person just so stuck over here on grants that they're not asking and picking up that phone and getting suited up and letting people know who they are and what they do. Nonprofits need to network.
Look, you just said something. I'm gonna say this for the after. I got a great question.
Okay, so listen, we about to wrap this thing up because Nicole, first of all, it was a pleasure having you on the show. I want you to end this show note by speaking to our audience, someone that may be starting a nonprofit, someone that may be on the verge of already having an existing nonprofit and don't know where to go. Like, I want you to give them some tips, some resources, as well as your contact information, and give them a sense of hope. Give them a sense of hope that they can continue. So I'm going to turn it over to you, and then Faris, you're going to wrap it up for us, okay?
So first of all, I want to tell that person is you don't have to go with a firm. You can try to go it alone. You can, try to fill out the application yourself, but you don't want to find yourself in file 13 where you've, done something wrong. One little bitty thing, I can't even begin to tell you how many people, even when they're forming their state, they don't have the provisions that are required. So there's a lot of things that are required. So we want to give you that clarity, that peace of mind. We want you to know that you're getting things done correctly, in the right way. And then we have a do it for you system that's like, do it for you, do it with you. So it's not like you have to feel like you're doing it by yourself. Literally we feel like we're holding your hand. We're not enabling you, but we're supporting you. And so people, I did a training recently and somebody said, you're the clarity girl, you're giving clarity. And that's really, I'm always wanting to be clear and give clarity. So, that's some of our core values, that peace of mind, that clarity, clear direction. I mean, our system is called the Clear Track 501c3 system. And so we would love to offer that system to you and give you that peace of mind and let you start something that is successful, let you start something that's bankable, Let's get to those 6 figures plus. I call it, let's become bankable nonprofits.
Yes.
You know, 6 figures and above. And let's just make a difference in this world, because there is a tribe that is signed to you and then waiting for you.
That was beautiful, Nicole. So also let them know how they can connect with you on social media or your website or any, like phone or whatever.
All of my social media is C Nicole Henderson. And so my website, which we're updating the website, but right now you can find me at cnhenderson.com. And so IG is C Nicole Henderson, Facebook is C Nicole Henderson. I think my Twitter is C Nicole Henderson. So yeah, you can definitely find me there. And we just want to be here for you and to help you take your nonprofit to the next level and get started with ease and peace of mind.
Exactly. Well, guys, there you have it right there. Again, reach out to C. Nicole Henderson and her firm. She has an amazing team of individuals that's helping out so many people, not just in Georgia, but also across the United States and also internationally as well. Again, if you're serious about a nonprofit, this is the young lady and this is her team that you want to go through next to speak with, because this is, and the goal of the Homecare Guyz is to go through and introduce you all to people that are within our circle, because we feel like it's not good for us just to have this knowledge and not to expose it to everyone else. Because people are asking, well, Faris or Kayla, how are you all doing it? We're giving you the game right now, and it's free. We're giving you the game free. She's gonna charge you, but we're gonna give you the game for free on the podcast. And she gave you a lot of free game today as well that you can go through and execute right now as well. But you do want to go through and reach out to C. Nicole Henderson and her firm and her team, and they're gonna go through and take care of you, and they're gonna go through and make sure that you are in the fast track to go through and starting your 501c3 or nonprofit as well. So with that being said, remember we do these podcasts every Tuesdays and Thursdays. We drop great new content every Tuesdays and Thursdays. Follow us on all streaming platforms, from iTunes to Spotify to Anchor to YouTube to Instagram to Facebook, all of it we're on as well. And also make sure you join us for the after show. This is where this specific after show, we're going to be asking some detailed questions that's going to be geared towards those entrepreneurs, those successful entrepreneurs that have built a business, but they have social conscience that they want to go through and give back to the community. How can it benefit the community and also the business while maintaining your purpose as well? So you do want to tune in to that particular after show as well. So C. Nicole, thank you so much for tuning in. And guys, make sure you go through and check us out on the after show. Have a wonderful day.